Good morning. I'm Boysen, Hodgson, Communications and Marketing Director for the ManKind Project USA. And this morning I have the pleasure of sitting with Joe Bernstein, who has been doing some really cool stuff. And I've been keeping track of what's up with him. And I wanted to get him on the phone and talk about some of the things that he is up to. And the kind of segue is Joe's a health dude. So we're going to be talking about men's health today, men's physical, emotional, spiritual health today. And I want to start. Joe, thanks.
Hey, thank you, Boysen. I'm excited to be talking to you here today about this, and I'm glad you added the emotional, spiritual, physical stuff to that as well too, because it is the big picture for me, not just kind of the what we think of typical health.
Totally. That's why I've been digging what you've been talking about, because you don't just approach it. It's not, 5 ways to eat more avocados.
Yeah,
It's
which I do recommend, by the way. I love avocados. Eat as many as you can.
right,
Yeah,
but it's a little bit deeper than that.
right, right.
So, and that'll take us right into a first question. So,
Cool.
why do you think it's so important that we're talking about men's health these days?
Yeah, that is a great question. I'm often asking myself the inverse of that question. Why aren't we talking about health more? I know it's a huge topic all over the place, but I feel like it's really integral to everybody's life, obviously. Um, but on a bigger picture level, why it's important for us to be talking about this is we're kind of stuck collectively in shadow in this culture around health and body and weight and wellness in general. We have some epidemics going on. We have epidemics in obesity and diabetes and heart disease, and in mental illness, depression and anxiety are rampant. And for the most part, with limited exception, these are all things that can be prevented with proper self-care and a focus on wellness. But instead, we're kind of medicating and we're stuffing them down and we're looking in other directions and kind of sweeping it under the rug. And we're raising a generation or generations of children that don't have great models for self-care, for choosing ourselves first and taking care of ourselves. And we're setting ourselves up for a future that's not going to be able to sustain us on so many levels because of what's happening here. On a micro level, just man to man, we talk a lot in men's work about integrity. It's like the golden cow of men's work, isn't it?
Yeah.
Integrity. And we talk about mission and we talk about purpose. And I really believe strongly, and this might upset some people to hear, but if we are not taking care of ourselves and we're not focused on our health and we're not putting our wellness first, there's no way we're in integrity with ourselves. So how can we be in integrity with other people that we relate with if we're not truly in connection and integrity with ourselves? And if we're not doing what we need to do to perform at our best, emotionally, physically, spiritually, mentally, whether it be professionally or personally, in our relationships, in pursuing our mission, if we don't have the energy to do it, if we don't have the clarity to do it, how are we going to do it? So that's kind of on the two levels, the bigger scale, and then on the one-on-one individual scale. Why is it important to talk about health? It's kind of everything.
And I notice as soon as you say that, as soon as you talk about, how essential, how bottom line it is, how foundational it is, there's that thing that rises up in me is like, oh, how could I be taking better care of myself? And then I'm gonna make a stretch here to say that this is what you end up talking with people about a lot, is that emotional stuff that rises up as soon as we say, oh, I'm not taking care of myself. And then all the voices come in and the self
Right.
judgment comes in and la 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 la, all of that stuff comes in, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's like I'm always kind of walking the line between being clear and being, in integrity with myself, and knowing that these messages bring up a lot of shame and a lot of shadow for people. So definitely, yeah. That what comes up right away is there's a lot of emotion behind all of this. Most of the reasons that we are either overweight or we're not in an exercise routine or we're not in the mindfulness routine that we want to be in, that we talk about being, that we strive for. A lot of that is connected to just either old patterns that we know and that we hold on to, or it's also about our emotional world. It's about finding ways to kind of look in other directions for feeding emotions that we're not tending to.
Cool.
Yeah.
And now with that, let's go right back into, so how did you get here where you are now?
Yeah, man. So I was born July 20th, 19. No, okay. Yeah, I joke, but that's true. So I grew up. By the time I was 2.5, I was getting remarks from like my pediatrician. This is a story I was told all the time growing up. My pediatrician would say to my parents, "Oh, I want to represent him when he's an NFL lineman." So at 2.5 years old, it's a really nice way of saying you got a fat kid on your hands. So I grew up obese. I was always overweight. It kind of molded my reality. From day one, what I believed was true for me and what I thought about the world was impacted by the fact that I was kind of always the heaviest kid in the room or on the team or in the group, just on the playground, wherever I was overweight. And that continued. So that continued in high school. I was up and down over 300 pounds several times. I played sports. So during sports seasons, I would always drop a bunch of weight and then I put it back on and I would drop a bunch of weight. Um, and truthfully, I said already, this impacted my reality. This impacted the way I saw the world. If you want to talk about story, in my mid-adolescence, I had a story that said, "I'll always be overweight. I'll always be obese. I'll never be able to date successfully. I won't marry. I won't have kids." And I had a story that said, "I'll die in my 40s, and that's just who I am."
Wow.
Um, so how I got further along the path was, one day I went to the doctor after several years in my mid-20s, and I was like 340 pounds at 5'10", 25 years old. And that was probably somewhere in the range of 50 to 60 pounds heavier than I thought I was. So
Yeah.
that was like the first huge wake-up call because I was not taking care of myself at all in my 20s. Even less because I no longer was in sports and I was no longer athletic. That was the first big wake-up call. So I lost a bunch. I lost like 50 pounds in a few months, just changing a few things. But that wasn't enough. I gained some back. I gained most of it back.
Yeah.
But really, the pathway was eventually I just started to shift my lifestyle slowly, not focused on losing weight, but on diving into what I loved and on getting really interested in food and food culture and local food and whole food. And I just started dropping weight without trying. And then from there, a bunch of other things happened in my life that kind of created an obsession around getting healthy and also developing my mindset and my emotional world. And so that would eventually brought me here. There's a whole lot more story there in the middle, but to keep it short, that's kind of what I would say. I grew up with a lot of health challenges, and I learned to heal myself over time, doing it in a very sustainable way, where I was moving towards a lifestyle I loved rather than trying to chase down things I hated or things that were dreadful. So that's kind of where I got to where I am.
I was moving toward a lifestyle I love rather than chasing or shying or pushing or, yeah. Nice. And that seems to be the message that comes through in a lot of what I've read from you and a lot of what I've seen from you,
Mm-hmm.
is that you have to find a North Star in here somewhere. You have to find a vision that you are attracted to pursuing for yourself. And then that's going to lead you into a whole lot of other stuff. So in working with other people, what are the swamps that you end up in these days?
Right, right. So the first thing with anybody at all times when I'm talking about this, when I'm trying to share some of my philosophy, or when I'm working with clients, the first belief that is pretty pervasive in our culture is that doing healthy things sucks, right?
Mm.
So people think of eating healthy as eating a whole bunch of foods they don't like and no longer eating the foods that they like and love. People think of getting healthy as doing a bunch of dreadful, strenuous exercise that they don't enjoy and that just seems like treachery or seems like a chore. So the first belief system I'm working with that I've learned to start helping people understand is taking care of ourselves is actually, it's not about moving towards the things we hate. As cheesy as it sounds, there's the whole like love and fear, right? We talk about, are we
Yeah.
moving towards love, or are we moving towards fear, and what's the decision? But that's what it's about. We have to eliminate this fear that comes along with change by finding the things we love. So I'm helping people turn their health journey or their wellness journey into an exploration, into experiments, into like a quest to find the foods that they actually enjoy that also support their health, and teaching them that they can still eat the stuff that they love that's kind of on the bad list, even though I don't believe in good and bad food. I think that's kind of a low level belief system around food. Um, but helping them understand you can eat those things, just we're going to eat them more sparingly. We're going to eat the best quality version. We're going to eat them mindfully so you can really get all the pleasure you should from it. And then as far as movement, it is about finding movement that like enlivens us and connects us to our body rather than just doing a bunch of exercise that we hate, just getting on the treadmill when we hate it. So it is that idea of finding things we love and that it can be an experience of connecting more with ourselves and connecting more with the world rather than an experience of drudgery and limitation. It can be a process of expansion, you know?
Cool. So all these things you learned, all this learning you took in, now you're working with other clients.
Mm-hmm.
And what is your vision now? Like, where are you headed right now?
Right. So where am I headed right now? Well, right now, I want to help spread the word and the message, first of all, that stepping into health and stepping into wellness, first of all, it's possible. A lot of people are out there believing that, you know, my life is this way, my life is that way. It's going to be too hard for me to make a change. So first of all, it's possible to change. Whatever story we have that says we are this way or we are that way, we hear stories like, I don't like to exercise, or I don't love vegetables, or things like I'm a night person. Those are all things that we can retrain, right? So first of all, I want to drive that message, and I also want to drive the message that we can actually learn to find ways of being healthy that we love, kind of like I just talked about. In the immediate future, I'm continuing to work one-on-one with people, and actually, I want to work with more people. I want to have more people have access to working with me and getting the mentorship and the knowledge and kind of the journey that I can help them walk down the path of. So I'm actually shortly going to be starting group coaching too. I've got some group coaching ready to launch here for this summer, early in the summer. I'm excited about. And in the future, I do hope to be doing some public speaking, creating more informational products so more people can access what I have to offer. At the same time, I don't like making too big, huge, long-term plans out there, because that has me moving towards and attaching emotionally towards stuff that I might not necessarily still be into a year from now. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. And to keep this incredibly crisp, and we've kind of like covered a whole lot of stuff in a very short period of time. How should people connect with you?
Sure, absolutely. If people want to connect with me directly, the best thing is to just email me directly. You can email me at Joe, so Joe, at dropthearmor.com, just spelled out.
Yeah.
Yeah, DROPTHEARMOR. And also you can check out my website, dropthearmor.com. But if you want to connect, I'm open to connect, of course. Just email me and we can set up a conversation, or just email around some ideas. I love helping people out. Whether they're going to become a client or not, I enjoy connecting with people and learning more about our challenges, our struggles, and our triumphs in the world of wellness and health and mindset, So
Yeah.
I love to connect. That's my passion.
And that's how I stumbled onto you. We're Facebook friends through the connection with the ManKind Project, and I started seeing you posting stuff on Drop the Armor and some of your short videos, and I have appreciated that. I've appreciated that they've been really real. You've been very authentic in your kind of presentation of what you're doing and how you speak and how you write. It's just very baseline, very real. So thank you for that, and cool work. And if you haven't seen Joe, if you haven't seen the kind of before and after of Joe's journey, I encourage you to take a look, because that's like, for me, it brings up kind of here's what's possible. Here's what's possible personally. So from that first level, from that very eye level, and then what would be possible, what is possible when all of those eyes who are now focusing and restructuring their beliefs and retraining
Mm,
themselves and getting out of that stuck cycle, what becomes possible for a whole bunch of eyes as a we
mm,
in community or culture when that's no longer the driving thing. That's so this circles back around to the very beginning of the conversation. Like we live in a culture of epidemics right now.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And what is possible? What else is possible
Yeah.
when we retrain? So cool. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, man.
And cut.